TIFU on Reddit. Subscribe, like, let's go. Today, I fucked up by getting a tattoo of my mom in a bikini. My dad passed away a few months ago. I was really close to him and I miss him a lot. My dad had quite a few tattoos, but one of them I remember dearly. It was this pin-up style tattoo of a lady in a Hawaiian skirt and coconut bra on his calf. I always liked that tattoo, even though it was pretty badly done. Most of the color vanished over the years, and I remember our dad letting us color in the tattoo with markers when he wanted to take a nap and keep us busy. My mom always disapproved and I never understood why until now. One day, about 2 weeks after he passed away, I was walking around the city and came by a tattoo shop. One thing led to another and I walked out of that shop with the same tattoo my dad had, the lady with the coconut bra. The artist did a great job at recreating the tattoo and I was very happy. Until I got home and wanted to show my mom. My aunt was there, my dad's sister, and started laughing like crazy. My mom looked quite shocked, not the reaction I was expecting at all. I didn't understand what's happening until my aunt told me, "Well, now you have got your mom on you forever. In a skimpy outfit. Great choice." Well, long story short, my dad got this tattoo about a year after they started dating. She wore this outfit to a party, took a photo, and he got it tattooed a few weeks after. Great. Fucking great. I was a bit confused because my mom has always had blonde hair. The tattoo lady's got black hair, but apparently she had a short phase of dyeing her hair black for a few months. My mom always hated that tattoo. They almost broke up because of it back then. She made him swear that he is never gonna tell anyone the story behind that tattoo. Hence why I don't know anything about it, and I never asked. I thought this was just a random tattoo he got on one of his many vacations. Well, now I have a tattoo of my mom in a coconut bra. Great. My mom told me she does not mind and that it's kinda funny now. But I am really thinking of getting it removed. At least it's on my ribcage so I can hide it for the time being. I really don't want to show the world my mom in a bikini. Today I fucked up by visiting a Japanese bathhouse. Okay, so this happened a fair few years ago but still haunts me. Back in 2017 I was in my final year of university and got the opportunity to spend 5 weeks in Tokyo for an exchange observership. One of the items on my bucket list was to visit a Sento, traditional indoor Japanese bathhouse. I wanted to go to somewhere a bit less touristy, and luckily there was a place only a few blocks from where I was staying, like 45 minutes out of the central city. Not wanting to make an idiot of myself, I did some research beforehand regarding what to expect and how to act. One thing mentioned was that you have to wash yourself before you hop in the pool. I didn't have a travel bottle of soap body wash but read that you can buy it at most places, and if not then it will often be supplied. When I got there I quickly realized no one spoke English, and although I managed to pay for my entry, I could not communicate our e-soap nor could I see any for purchase behind the counter. I assumed there would be some in the actual bathing area, so stripped down naked in the changing room, put my clothes in a locker, and proceeded into the actual bathing room. On the left-hand side of the room were like 15 or so washing stations, to the right was the big pool. There were a few old men sitting, well more like squatting, on tiny footstool things washing themselves. I was the only non-Japanese person there, and alas there was no soap in sight. Then I spied just to the left of the entrance, on a table, a small woven basket with like 7 bars of soap in it. This was where I made my big fuck up. I assumed that this was the communal soap basket. I grabbed a bar of soap and walked over to one of the washing stations to get to business. One of the old Japanese guys saw me doing this, and started glaring at me and muttering something under his breath. This would have been the time to return the soap to the basket and call it a day, but I am a fucking idiot so that didn't happen. Shortly after, another old Japanese man gets out of the bath, walks over to the table, picks up the basket of soap, exchanges words with the guy who glared at me, and proceeds to also start glaring at me and saying something in what seemed to be a pretty angry tone. This is when I realize with horror that the basket was in fact his, and I had just stolen one of his bars of soap. By this point I had already lathered myself up however, so handing the soap back to him clearly was not an option. I awkwardly tried to apologize but could see it was not well received. I didn't see any other option except to finish washing myself, but the next issue was that I had nowhere to put the soap. I didn't have a toiletries bag with me, and there were no rubbish bins anywhere. So I just sat there, red-faced, completely naked, dying a million deaths inside, continuously rubbing soap on myself and breaking it up. disintegrating it into small enough chunks that it would go down the drain. I am sure the Japanese men continued glaring and cursing at me, but I didn't make any further eye contact with them, so can be completely sure. After this ordeal was over, I rinsed myself off, got up and entered the bath. The water was incredibly hot, however, and this, alongside the shame and embarrassment washing over me, made for a thoroughly unenjoyable experience. I only stayed in there for like 5 minutes before slinking out, back to the safety of my touristy accommodation. Today, I fucked up by misunderstanding what world's strongest coffee actually meant. Okay, so technically this was on Monday, but definitely one of the biggest mistakes I have made in my life. So for context, I absolutely love really strong, dark coffee. There is a running joke amongst my friends that I drink jet fuel because I brew it so heavy. For whatever reason, that strong flavor psychologically gives me kind of a dopamine rush and wakes me up before the caffeine hits. Anyways, on Monday, I had a really important client meeting and my boss had flown into town for said meeting. So, I had to meet her at her hotel pretty early in the morning and it was across town. So I had to get up way earlier than usual and was not having it that morning. Since I was not handling waking up early and kind of in a rush, I hurriedly made my coffee and made it strong. At the store, I had come across this coffee called Death Wish, which was coined as the world's strongest coffee at one point, so I cracked it open, gave the filter a heavy fill, and scurried away to do other morning tasks. I was really excited to try it. In my mind, strong was synonymous with the actual taste, not the caffeine content. For context, the company does not release the actual caffeine content, but tests show a 12-ounce cup ranges from 300 up to 750 milligrams depending on how you brew it. Judging by my not-so-light brewing habits, I am sure that number was far closer to the 750. As I am going about my morning, I am hammering it down pretty quickly. Slightly disappointed. It was strong, but not what I was expecting out of world's strongest, but hey, whatever, it works. After the first few sips, I look at the clock and realize I am running out of time. So I say fuck it, and just take my coffee with me to the shower where I can finish it off. A few minutes into my shower, while I am lathering up and jamming out to Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift, you know, as us dudes who are married to Swifties do, I start absolutely buzzing. At first it was just kind of like that little tremble and I am just like her, and cracked it up to drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Over the next few minutes that feeling gradually increased, and I had the full-on shakes and felt hot. At this point I put two and two together. Strong caffeine content. Oopsies. A little concerned. I hop out of the shower, grabbed my phone, and googled the amount of caffeine and saw that 750 number and was like, oh fuck. This sent me into a full-on caffeine-induced panic attack. First panic attack of my life. My legs gave out from the shakes and my heart was pounding, while I laid on the fetal position on the ground trying to chill myself out. I thought I was having an actual heart attack. At the time, there was a little bit of irony in my mind that as a guy in my late 20s, who powerlifts and works out 5 days a week, my cause of death would be via heart attack caused by being a dumbass, and more or less shotgunning 750 milligram of caffeine. Not the way I thought I would go, but I accepted my fate in that moment. I called for my wife, who was extremely confused, very concerned, and her being frantic about me being frantic made me feel worse. But when I explained it, she calmed down, realized I probably was not dying and just said, oh yeah, that will do it, and just laid on the floor, pet me like our dogs, and handed me her water off of the sink counter. Then, the farts happened. In my panic attack I started aggressively farting uncontrollably. Not just regular farts or squeakers, but full-blown ground shaking ass rippers every 5-10 seconds. Quite impressive and in rapid succession. My wife started dying laughing and just patted me on the head, and started saying shit like that's it, honey. Just fart it out. You will be fine. So I am glad she got some enjoyment out of it, because I was not having a great time laying there buck-ass naked, and still wet on the bathroom floor in the fetal position, farting uncontrollably and shaking hava. After about 15 minutes I chilled out a little bit and realized I was okay-ish, and my wife kept an eye on my heart rate and stuff just to make sure I was not actually having a heart attack. For the rest of the day I was wired, and definitely a little traumatized, but now I think it's funny. Ended up missing the meeting and my boss was a little pissed she flew down here. But hey, shit happens. Sometimes we are dumbasses and drink way too much caffeine. My question is, who in the actual fuck wants that much caffeine at once? Today I fucked up by masturbating in front of the nurses in the hospital while waking up from anesthetic. I am definitely going to delete this later. I am posting this under my Anon account for a reason. I am just hoping that maybe there are some other people here who have done something similar, or nurses that can tell me worse stories from their work to make me feel better about myself. Or at least maybe a little mockery will help turn this from a humiliating story to a funny one. Today, I had an egg retrieval operation in the hospital as part of an egg donation. This is a surgical procedure in which a needle is inserted into the vaginal wall to the ovary, collecting mature eggs to be fertilized. While normally you only have one, injections are administered for about 2 weeks beforehand to increase the number of eggs matured in one cycle. In my case, there were about 25 eggs. The retrieval is done under anesthetic, which I am going to blame for all my poor decisions. Everything was going swimmingly until I woke up. For about 10 minutes I was totally fine. Then I felt like absolute shit. I have done this once before, but it didn't hurt this bad. It felt like period pain. If you were having 25 particularly bad periods all at once. The cramps were so bad, one of the first things I did once it hit was roll over and throw up, though that could have actually been the nausea from the anesthetic. I am not sure. There was an IV in my left arm, so I didn't want to curl up on my left on top of it. And I tried to curl up on my right, but that left my left arm in very uncomfortable position too. So I opted to roll into the fetal position while lying on my back, that is, with my knees lifted in the air up against my chest and my calves and feet hovering parallel to the bed. This did help with the pain a little. What I realized later when recreating this position at home later is, it's very difficult to get the blanket to actually cover your backside entirely like this, and the hospital blankets were not that big, so I am reasonably sure that in trying to alleviate my pain I was also displaying my ass and genitals to all of the attending staff, 3 nurses, and possibly others in the recovery room as well. One of the nurses went to fetch some kind of opioid to help with the pain. While that was happening, I was acutely aware of the intense ache in my vulva and pelvis. For the man in the subreddit who are not in the know, masturbating helps with period pain, and I was still reasonably sure that the blanket was covering me entirely and nobody would know. So in my delirious state I decided to rub the offending anatomy to try and reduce the pain. One of the nurses closed the curtains surrounding me, and then he told me he was going to get me a second blanket for warmth. When he returned with it, he placed it a little lower over my body, covering my lower body and legs. I didn't really put what this meant together until later. To their credit, they took it very well and didn't actually say anything, and it is possible they didn't see it, but reflecting on their reactions and the chain of events in clear-eyed hindsight, I am pretty sure they did. To be fair, if any of them were present for the surgical procedure, they would have seen me while I was unconscious as well, but it's a different thing when I am awake and, well, you know. Anyway, now I am recovering in bed at home. The pain has went away, but the embarrassment has only increased. At least I humiliated myself for a good cause, and I will probably never see these people again. Today I fucked up by cleaning my windowsill brellas. For context, I am Irish and we have recently had big historic storm. There was not too much damage done to my home, mainly the garden and a few roof tiles off, but on the grand scale, not bad. However, I did leave a kitchen window open on a latch. The window didn't break, but it did leave a mess inside my kitchen around my window, inside the sink and the blind. My mom's house had the power cut, so obviously I would invited them to stay. They said they would be at my house in around 2 hours. My ma, God bless her wee soul, is a bit of a clean freak, so naturally, my added self shot straight into hyperfocus. The editors will understand this. Because of the storm, the contents of the wood chip and mud from the garden were inside my kitchen by the windowsill, all over my blinds and sink. So I chose to get right into washing inside the kitchen cupboards and the ice cube trays inside the freezer in true Ed style. Scrub the floor, Armageddon style, where bacteria would not survive. The anxiety really started to kick in, so I took some oil that I am prescribed. Tumul, 30 mg Thichi, usually takes an hour or so to kick in, but I would forgotten to eat, but nah, fuck it. So anyway, I take a break and doom scroll and notice the time. Jesus Mary and the wee donkey, half an hour before my parents get here. Better finish cleaning. So I get to the windowsill, so muddy, and some plants that sat on the ledge had been blown over. These plants were all cactus, particularly a bunny ear cactus plant that I am particularly fond of, so I moved them off the windowsill on the draining part of the sink and sorted the soil. Just as the oil started to hit me, now this is key, I was in old clothes, hair up, braless. The ladies will know, this is classic deep clean attire. I start wiping the ledge, high as a fucking kite. Now this might sound like a humble brag, but I am rather well endowed on the knocker's front. The chariots were swinging slow, and my sweet bunny ear cactus was being smothered, particularly by my right tit as I was leaning over them to clean the windowsill. The pain didn't even kick in right away. I would cleaned the windowsill, blind and even sprayed air freshener. It was not till I went to get changed and took my t-shirt off that I felt the burn of 1,000 fucking suns. When I took my top off, I am not joking when I say it looked like the cast of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids had went to war with my tits using tiny spears. It looked like tiny blonde hairs covered my right tit. It looked like my right tit was going through menopause. It was hot, red and had tiny hairs all over. The pain really started to kick in. I turned my bathroom upside down looking for tweezers. I found them just as I heard someone walk in my door. My parents had arrived. My face was purple, tears in my eyes. My mom knew something was wrong. My dad was clueless. His first words upon seeing me and the damage from the storm was "Had more wind up my arse." Charming, I had to fess up to my ma. I told her, "I have hurt my tit. There is cactus pricks all over my tit." She laughed and said, "Excuse me." So I showed her, the gasp on horror on her face. I swear you would have thought I would spat on my granny's grave. She starts inspecting, pulls her phone out to use the torch. Obviously she is old, so it takes her 2 business days to turn on the torch of her 2014 Samsung Galaxy. I stand at the top of my stairs with one tit out. She looks and tells me she has a solution, a microfiber cloth, something she's seen on TikTok. Suddenly, I got a case of the giggles, in pain but fucking pissing myself at this idea. She gets the cloth, proceeds to rub it over my tit to grab the small pricks out. It worked, excruciating but it worked. But my ma, it does not stop there. We need to now cool her tit down because it looks raging red. You would think some ice, frozen peas or even some cooled cabbage leaves. No, not my ma. Holy water, God bless her tit. I will give her due. She also recommended cabbage later on. The whole time my father is sat on my sofa, watching the news. He walked into my kitchen and shouts upstairs, "What the fuck have you done?" Me. Just as the Thichi reached its peak, runs downstairs with my ma. We go into the kitchen where my da is. He is holding onto my very expensive Roman blind, with white spots all over it. I would cleaned it with bleach while I was obviously melted on the Thichi. While I stood there, still braless, with my t-shirt up holding my right tit, exposed. Anyway, we had a steak pie and potatoes for dinner. It was grand. My father looked at the steak pie in the eye more than I. Today, I fucked up by meeting up with a girl from Bumble, in the Philippines. A few weeks ago I went to the Philippines with my family, and decided fuck it, let me download Bumble. So I match with this girl there and meet up with her. Originally she wanted to ask me to go partying at Pobla, party club area that's kinda like Tijuana. That's the closest resemblance I can think of, and not much of a clubber, and my cousins told me it's better to go to Pobla if I am with a local or if I am around people I know. So I tell her like, nah, it's okay, maybe we can hang out another time. So it's the next day, right? She messages me that she is too tired and lazy to drink, and asks if I am down for dinner and to hang out. I am like, sure. She is from my hometown and it's kinda far from Bigi, the city where I am staying. Asks if there is traffic. So she brings up the idea of eating at Bibiki and I am like, sure, why not? And then I say we can just find a spot here in Bigi. So she asks if I can grab their version of Uber, her to Bigi and back home, and I am like, I'm sure, cause why not? LM being nice, and compared to the US, Grab is cheap. So when she finally gets here we go to the place, and see that there is a long line, and we decide to see if other places are open, but they are not. And then she goes, do you wanna just go to Pobla? We don't have to drink, there is food places there and we can just hang out after. I am kinda iffy on the idea, but I'll say sure, why not? So we grab there, and the whole ride she is just on her phone texting, and I am just sitting there like, anyways. We arrive to Pobla and decide to eat at Filling Station, an all-out American diner. But yeah, we get food, and as I am paying for our meal she goes, actually my friends are in Pobla right now, do you wanna hang out with them? And that like really threw me off. And I was like, honestly not really, I just wanted to hang out with you and I am not in the mood to drink or party. Then she goes, no we don't have to, we can just go around, just Komen. And before I can answer she gets up and tells me to come on. And we are going down the stairs and her friend calls her and it's some random guy. And she introduces us and we exit the diner after. As we are walking around, they ask me what I want to do and I am like, I am not really in the mood to drink or anything, and then they ray like, Komen, just party with it will be fun, and I said really I am not in the mood. Then as we keep walking the girl asks me, what do you want to do then? And I kept saying that I just wanted to hang out with her and I didn't want to party. She asked me this about 5 times, but she was not listening, and then she goes, well do you just want to go home then? Because I am gonna go with my friends. And my stomach just sunk cause I felt like I wasted my time. Then I am just like, yeah I'ma just go home and call a Grab. Then she goes, okay I will wait with you. As I am booking my Grab she goes, wait, didn't you say you were gonna pay for my ride back? And I looked at her and said, yeah but that's when you said that we were gonna hang out, so nah. Then when I say my Grab is here she goes, Komen, just give me 500 pesos then, and her friend like stepped towards me, about to corner me. And in my mind I wanted to crash out and like actually start shit. But also I don't know these people and the area I am in, and I don't want to be into some deep trouble over 500 pesos. So to me 500 pesos isn't a lot, so I'm like, you know what, Al will just give it to her, so she can leave me alone and I can just go back home. That Grab back home was the most defeated feeling ever. I have never felt so defeated in my entire life. As soon as I enter my Grab she texts me, are you sure you don't want to come? We have more friends coming. I just reply with, no I already said multiple times. I didn't want to drink. I hope you enjoyed your free food and free rides. Turns out, a mutual's friend knows her and she apparently has two BFs and does this to hella guys, especially foreigners. And she tries to get them to pay for her and her friends at the clubs. Thanks for watching. Write in the comments which story was funnier.